We are still exploring the question, can an evangelical Christian vote for a Mormon to be president? Now, I want to move on in dealing with the issue of the Second Amendment. In 1994, during his campaign against Ted Kennedy, better known as the Chappaquiddick Kid, Romney supported two gun control measures. One, the Brady Bill, which required background checks for gun purchases, and two, a ban on certain type of assault weapons. Both, of course, were strongly opposed by most gun right advocates. In July of 1994, question and answer session with voters arranged by the Boston Herald, Romney stated that, quote, "I don't think," referring to the waiting period, "will have a massive effect on crime, but I think it will have a positive effect." Then in 2002, in his race for governor, Romney said during a debate against his Democratic opponent, quote, "We have enough gun laws in Massachusetts. I support them," unquote. In both cases, Romney expressed views favorable to certain kinds of gun control laws. This is not too surprising, since he was running for statewide office in Massachusetts, also better known as Taxachusetts, which tends to be more favorable toward those laws than more rural parts of the country. Well, of course, Massachusetts is, after all, highly leaning toward a socialistic society. And in socialism, you're not allowed to carry guns. It's an impediment toward government. It tends to have a bad reaction to bad government, and it puts the people in a position to respond when they feel like they have or are being highly suppressed as a people. Well, anyway, the governor's proposed laws did receive support from pro-gun groups because other provisions lengthened the terms of firearm ID cards and license to carry firearms. Romney described the bill as a common consensus measure and a positive step. Romney's statements during the 2008 presidential campaign on gun control began to shift as he made his first bid for the White House. Addressing a National Rifle Association members' meeting by video on September 10, 2007, Romney said, and I quote, "I support the Second Amendment as one of the most basic and fundamental rights of every American. It is essential to our functioning as a free society, as are all the liberties enumerated in the Bill of Rights," unquote. In October 21st, 2007, in an edition of the CBS's Face the Nation, host Bob Schiffer, he challenged Romney on the evaluation of his gun control. He says it began to seem that he was evolving in his position. Thus, he asked him this question, and I quote, "You once said, 'We do have tough gun laws in Massachusetts, and I support them. I won't chip away at them. I believe they protect us. Now you say you are a gun owner. You have joined the National Rifle Association after saying at one point, 'I don't line up with the National Rifle Association.' Why would you join that group?" Romney responded, I quote, "I support the NRA. I support Second Amendment rights. But I don't line up with 100% of the NRA. They take some positions that are different from mine. But my positions are the same as my positions have been with regard to guns for a long, long time. And that is that I respect the right of people to bear arms, and whether that's for hunting or personal protection," unquote. During the Republican presidential debate on January 24th in 2008 in Boca Raton, Florida, Romney stated on his views about gun control, I quote, "I do support the Second Amendment, and I believe that this is an individual right of citizens and not a right of government. And I hope the Supreme Court reaches that same conclusion." He concluded in this questioning period by stating the following, I do not support any new legislation of an assault weapon banned nature, including that against semi-automatic weapons. I instead believe that we have laws in place that, if they're implemented and enforced, will provide the protection and the safety of the American people. But I do not support any new legislation. And I do support the right of individuals to bear arms, whether for hunting purposes or for protection purposes or for any other reason. That's the right that the people have, unquote. In a candidate questionnaire during the 2008 primary campaign, the Washington Post asked Romney, quote, "Do you think tighter restrictions should be in place for those buying a firearm?" unquote. Romney answered their question by stating, quote, "No. I believe we need to focus on enforcing our current laws rather than creating new laws that burden lawful gun owners. I do not believe in a one-size-fits-all federal approach to gun ownership because people keep and use firearms for different reasons," unquote. While Romney's statements during the 2012 presidential campaign expressed this view on gun control on his website, let's take a look at what he now says. And I quote, "The Second Amendment is essential to the functioning of our free society. I strongly support, or Mitt strongly supports, the right of all law-abiding Americans to exercise their constitutionally protected right to own firearms and to use them for lawful purposes, including hunting, recreational shooting, self-defense, and the protection of family and property." Like the majority of Americans, Mitt does not believe that the United States needs additional gun laws that restrict the Second Amendment right to bear arms, unquote. Clearly, there has been a shift in Romney's view on gun controls, a shift that has developed over a period of time. Not from political pressure, but rather as he has reflected on the intended right of the Second Amendment as written by the founders of the United States. Shall we trust this man in what he has said? Can men change their minds? Well, the common complaint is, well, he says that he's trying to get elected. Well, just about everybody running for president says one thing and does something different. That's because one man does not make all the decisions, nor can he pass all the laws. The question is, we know what his opponent's view is on these issues. I am going to say that as Romney now has in 2012 clearly defined his position on the rights of the Second Amendment, we must be in agreement with him. And it is our duty, and we should ask those who not only support him if he becomes president, but those who are in our party to ensure that he upholds these commitments, these promises, to protect our rights in ownership of guns according to the constitutional right of the Second Amendment. And I believe his position is justly set forth as to the purpose of what that amendment was intended to do for the American citizen.